10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh, glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. It is May the 23rd, Friday. Yes, it is Friday, May the 23rd, 2025. I can't believe we're at Friday already in the week. The week is just blown by. We have a great show planned for you. We have a special guest who will be joining us momentarily after the weather. It is Ward 5 Councillor of the Greater City of Sudbury, Mike Pennant, and looking forward to chatting with him. I know it'll be a juicy conversation because we've been talking with Tom Price and Bob Johnston as of late, and they basically critical of the city's dealing with the homeless and with the budget. They have budget concerns with what we've been told with what the arena is going to cost compared to what it actually is going to be costing taxpayers. So we'll talk about those things and more with Mike Pennant, and grateful that he's coming on the show because that's exactly what this show is for. It's for all sides to be able to give their points of view, and that's what we're here to do, and have a conversation in the meantime. So any questions you have, put them up on the screen. I'll do my best to moderate. I don't know if I've had too many questions coming through on our... Yeah, I just see one here from Nana, so that's good. We got one question, if I can actually read it from here. And we have another, basically, I think Belinda has given us a recommendation for Mike and for City Council. So we have that. We have a suggestion and we have a question. So at least we got that. And then, you know, we're going to have a great conversation regardless on the show this morning. So we're live on CKLU 96.7 FM this morning, as we usually are any and every weekday morning between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. We're also streaming live at cklu.ca. While you're there, just make sure to click on the Radio Player Canada app to stream us, download it to take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime. And while you're there, check out the merch. Any purchase of any merch will go towards keeping the lights on, the airways open. If you already got it, you don't need it, and you're able to, and you have the means, you can just hit the donate button, and whatever you feel is appropriate and you are able to afford, we appreciate your donation. It basically, we run on all community support pretty much, and that's it. So we're also streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel and the page. And mainly comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening, and we'll also be found on demand on those two platforms, along with X, formerly twitter.com/Sudbury News, and our news aggregating website, sudbury.news. You just click on the Sudbury News Talk tab, and you can watch the shows on demand. Without further ado, let's just jump in with some weather, and then we'll be back with a little chitter-chatter and your questions and your comments for Mike Pennant, Ward 5 Councillor of Greater City of Sudbury. It's going to be a great show, I promise, or your money back. And Sudbury weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Currently at 6 degrees. There's light rain. Today we can expect the rain to continue with a high of 10. Tonight, cloudy with a 60% chance of showers, low of 6. Tomorrow, cloudy with a 40% chance of showers and a high of 13. And then on Sunday, 30% chance of showers, high of 15. So again, remember that's a 70% chance that there won't be showers. So, and then Monday, just in time for the new week after the weekend, mix of sun and cloud, high of 19, high of 21 for Monday, Tuesday. Then showers, chance of showers again on Wednesday, 40% chance, high of 20. And then a mix of sun and cloud on Thursday with a high of 22. Look at your satellite here. A lot of activity as of 3 a.m. Anyways, it's probably changed a little bit, but not much. There's just a lot of cloud activity over Ontario in general with a lot of rain in our region. So that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, Mike Perron, and more right after this. Okay, so we are back. I had to get this question that I have here read. It's very small type from here, but I'll find it during the show at some point, and we'll get on, and I'll need my headphones if we're going to be talking with Monsieur Perron as he's getting ready to come on the show this morning. Let's see who's joining us so far today of all y'all. And we got Northern Hillbilly. Good morning, people. Good morning to you, Nana. Good morning. And blessings, everyone. Heart emoji, exclamation point. Nancy, good morning. Great chat with you yesterday. Okay, perfect. Yes, I know. I thought the same. Thank you very much. And Northern Hillbilly, ask Mike what he thinks of the CBDCs. Big questions here. Now, take into account that he's a city councillor, right? He's not representing, anything to do with having influence over digital currencies that are about to come in. But I can still ask him that and just see what he says. And Marianne, good morning, everyone, from Barrie. Liked and shared as usual. Judy, good morning to you. Vin, good morning. Monique, good morning. Sudbury. That looks like an umbrella emoji. And Andrew, good morning to you. And grand rising to Monique with a heart emoji, exclamation point. Marianne says, yes, rainy, mist for 2 days now. Geoengineered weather. Guess we didn't pay enough carbon taxes. And Monique, yeah, same here for sure. All kinds of wet out there. And Sheila, good morning from the east. Sheila from the east. She from the east. And good morning to you. And Monique, will you ever see the sun? We had a couple days this year with no geoengineering going on in the sky or no clouds. So we had pure blue skies maybe for 2-3 days so far this year. I'm just wondering if anyone's noticing that. And good morning, Liette from Collingwood. Hand clap emoji. And Denise, good morning and blessings, everyone. Same to you, Denise and Victoria. Good morning, everyone. Have a great weekend. Yes, it is Friday today, in case you haven't noticed. And for some of us, it's an exciting thing. Yes, we're only entitled to so many days of sunshine, since the sun heals our bodies. I think you got a point there with the vitamin D and other things. The sun just feels good, right? Jerome, good soggy TGIF morning. Everyone, muscle emoji, Canadian flag emoji. And Denise says shared with the group. That's great. And it's springtime, lots of rain. It's going to be nice. It's going to I'm going to put on my raincoat and plant seeds while it's raining. Yeah, awesome. I don't have to water my garden for the next few days, and the seeds will be so wet. They're going to pop up in the hot weather, and it's going to be about 7 or 8 days. It'll be summer. So awesome. Yes, very optimistic about summer coming. And I, as well, as we plant our seeds in our garden, water is good for the garden. There's no doubt about it. And Belinda, good morning to you. Having integrity means being both honest with yourself and with the people you serve. Now, I can tell why you would have that a statement for today with our conversation that we're about to have. with Mike Pettit as we wait for him to come on to the show. Northern Hillbilly, ask Mike before spending over $200 million on bread and circus for the sleepy sheep, while our streets are nothing but potholes. Okay, so again, and I'm reading these comments, and sometimes when we're typing them, they don't always come up, but I guess you're basically saying, you want to ask him, could the money be more well spent in other areas, right? Obviously. So, okay, we're going to talk about that today, about the arena, about the costs, and about, what the city is saying as opposed to maybe some of the critics as to the cost. And David, good morning. I was sleeping at Home Depot. They said I was sleeping. I was shopping. It's amazing what one word can make a difference, right? I was shopping at Home Depot and they said $89.95. I said, don't worry, it'll balance itself. Yeah, exactly. Where have we heard that before? And Marianne, rain is great, but almost 48 hours of mist. That's true. It is. It was very weird looking, the skies yesterday as I was going home. Like, this just isn't normal. Weather. I've always been someone who's been interested in the weather, always looked in the skies, always kind of contemplating how are clouds made, how everything looks. I've always been observant of that. And it's kind of Franken skies these days. Just nothing is kind of normal. And Joanne, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. You got all kinds of emojis here. Marianne, hitting the target, it looks like. And David, and left without paying after the Home Depot comment. That's funny. Sheila says the province of Quebec has been overshadowed with a fog, cloud, etc. Seems like every weekend it rains. Feels like the weather is locking down humanity. Also cold, wet crops this year would be hard to survive. Yeah, if the weather wasn't cooperating, right? Growing the food also would be difficult. So Hazel, good morning to you. Prayer emoji. Much appreciated. Mike must be having difficulties getting on here. We were supposed to meet at about 7:45. Hazel, good morning to you. Prayer emoji. Thanks for being on. Northern Hillbilly, AJ. The CBDC question is, you'll see what Mike is thinking. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think asking any question of anyone is just seeing where they're at with anything, right? We'll really need to fill up and occupy those halls. They're sending billions to Ukraine to rebuild nothing for Canada. Imagine that. We get pennies. Now, the thing is with Ukraine is these, it's not really known. It's not really said out loud, but these are investments that people are making in Ukraine. So if Canada gives money to them, there's supposed to be some kind of, it's an investment. So if you invest billions of dollars in Ukraine, let's say you're going to build apartment buildings or you're going to build resorts, they're supposed to yield a return. They don't really talk about it as a business, but everything's a business in the world. It's just how it's going about. If it's done through taxpayers' dollars or private investment, if it's all investment, it's all a business, and there's returns on those dollars. So it's interesting that Canadian politicians just can't come out and talk about that, or politicians in general, because there's usually some other kind of underhanded thing going on behind the scenes. And so you can't really be 100% transparent, or else we just have a website where everything's there. Every bit of money, where it goes, all the money coming in. So someone a third party can just come in and balance it themselves and see all the holes. But they can't have that, because then you'd see the holes, and the holes are there for a reason, and they're there for people to take advantage of it. And it's just like a shell game. The shells are moved around, but it's just the same people behind it. And there's the few that are making off like bandits from it. Okay, so Liette, update on the shooting in Collingwood, an altercation between police and a 50-year-old man who is currently in hospital waiting for further details. Oh, you're kidding. It's an altercation between police and a 50-year-old man. He's in hospital waiting for further details. Okay. And a lot of these things are going on. We're seeing a lot more violence between, just citizens and police and whatever as things get more and more. In Sudbury, it's like it's nothing to hear of a shooting these days going on. And it's usually someone from Southern Ontario that's coming up here for some kind of drug deal of some kind. And it's usually not just, people that are from here. But again, as drugs are more prevalent in our communities, it brings the violence with it and crime, violent crime. So, Mike, good morning to you. Mike Charette, as we wait for Mike Perron. And there's probably going to come a point where we're just going to move on, and he's probably having technical difficulties, although I don't have any messages from him saying that he's late for any means. I'll go back to seeing our conversation here. And is kind of buried, so I'll have to look for him. Mike, there we go. Okay, Friday. Sounds good. See you tomorrow. That was yesterday. So yeah, there wasn't a misunderstanding of which day it was. Tell me why we need another arena. It sounds suspicious to me. That's Monique. Well, again, it's not a matter of another arena. We do have the oldest arena out of all the OHL franchises. Sudbury has the oldest building. And there are some concerns with, even getting certain concerts, certain acts will not come to Sudbury because the arena isn't set up for the transports and the shows, and it's not up to code for a lot of these things because things have moved on since that building has been built. And so there's a lot of reasons why you'd want a new arena. Every market has a newer arena than we do. So there's, again, right? So things are always being progressed in our society. And so I know I'm not making a good argument for having a new arena, but at the same time, we are the oldest. We're the only one without a new or refurbished arena in all of the OHL. And if we wanted to, let's say, get a Memorial Cup here, we could not do that with the current arena. I don't even know. That's a good question for Mike if he's coming on. I don't even know if we would qualify for the Memorial Cup with the new arena because I'm not sure if it's a certain amount of seats you need or what in order to qualify. I know there's a bunch of stipulations with the arena size and the city and all the things they factor in with what city they choose to be the Memorial Cup hosting city. But that's one of the things I would think they would want to have is hosting a Memorial Cup. Top of the morning, that's Marvin all the way from Alberta on the show here. And Sheila says, okay, we're just looking at comments between each other, so that's good. A fantasy event center, but you'll have to walk all over the homeless to get there. And again, you're not the only one that thinks that. There are many people that feel that there's lots to work on in the city before having a new arena, right? Like clean up certain things before that happens. And in my opinion, that arena should have been built 15, 20 years ago or even longer. The Sioux had their arena for many, many years. They were able to get it done. and we were not. And we're still kind of not. We're just kind of knotted up. And now costs are going through the roof. And with these new tariff threats from the United States, and there are tariffs on a lot of the materials that would be used to build the arena, the costs are going to go up higher and higher. And regulations aren't getting fewer either. And there's a lot of red tape. Now, Tom Price was saying there wasn't an environmental assessment done, which is usually a huge thing that stands in the way of any big project that happens. And I guess the city has the ability to just do whatever they want. It's their city, I guess, right? So they can overlook any studies or any projects that they need to overlook in order to make it happen. I'm not sure if that's happened in this case. But yeah, so it's too bad Mike isn't on to be able to answer any of these questions. So FFF, Ukraine, Canada, and Canadians first, considering it's our money. That's Marianne. Okay, and yeah, there's a lot of that. Northern Hillbilly in Canada for sure. And Marianne says it's a waste of taxpayers' money. Good morning, Pierrette. Canada is the next Gaza. Planned begging. I'm not sure if you meant planned from the beginning, but yeah. Well, that's the thing. We're keep pounding. That's Trevor for being on here. Is it Canada? Maple leaf emoji. Canada is the next Gaza. That's an interesting statement, as we've seen a shooting take place in the United States outside the Jewish Museum. It was in Washington, D.C., where 2 people of the Jewish community were gunned down and killed. And the person afterwards said, "Free Palestine" to the cameras and whatever. And so you know that it's a politically motivated killing. So I just remember seeing it on whatever podcast, and they said there's no room for that type of violence to be on Western soil. But as we see, if we bring people that are involved with the conflict in mass amounts, then you're just going to see those same conflicts here. It's kind of like the mayor announced yesterday he wants the hospital to be taken down very quickly. And why did he have a press conference, and why is he so adamant of taking the hospital down that's been sitting there decrepit for so many years, painted with a rainbow to make it look nice? And that didn't really do it. But why was he so adamant? Why is it so urgent now to take the hospital down? Well, because there was a death and then a fire. So you don't think the mayor and council were told there's going to be deaths and fires in the building if we don't take it down fast? No, we wait for it to happen and then we act, right? So that's a little bit of critique or criticism that I personally have with the timing of this. That eyesore should have been taken down a long time ago. As soon as the office or the hospital was out of commission, we should have been like, okay, what are we doing with this land? Who's the best person to develop it? Or who's the best what's the best company to develop it? What are we going to develop? What do we need in this city? You're beginning with a clean slate, and you got prime real estate there. And it could have been everyone come to the table and decide what needs to be done with that old hospital. But look what we've done in Sudbury in the meantime. Look how long it's been. And unfortunately, there's been a tragic death a few days ago there of a young man, only 24 years old. And then suspiciously or unsuspiciously, or who knows whether it's related, a fire a few days after or a couple days after. And yeah, so who was living in that building? How safe was it? And could that have been prevented? And so why is it so urgent now? What makes this such an urgent thing now compared to last week to take it down? Wasn't it just as urgent before? Where's the common sense? So you're told, you know what, this building could be very dangerous, and you can't just go, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it is. We can't just have a building just sitting here dormant, that big, that close to downtown, and not expect anything bad to happen there. Is it because there's liability from the city, possibly? You know, for this death? I have no idea. I really don't. And I don't have anyone to ask the question to this morning, so we'll never know. Denise says Ukraine lost billions and billions of dollars. They can account for. Why should they send money there when our country is failing? Makes no sense at all. We're bankrupting ourselves. And now that could be part of the plan, right? Because bankruptcy brings in a new form of government. So if there's entities out there who would prefer our country to go bankrupt and they will benefit from it, well, you'll be darn well rest assured that they're in the works to make that happen. So it's whoever's going to benefit from something. And there are people who have the ability to bankrupt countries out there. So is that part of the plan for Canada? I don't know. We're making decisions that make no sense otherwise. Like, we're either that incompetent or we're doing it on purpose. I'd rather think we're doing it on purpose. That at least makes me have more faith in humanity. At least there's evil people behind it doing it, and it's not just that much blatant incompetency. Right? Just, yeah. Okay, so Dave's on here. Let's see. We don't need the arena at all. We need to clean up the complete council. So that's Dave. Thanks, Dave, for chiming in. You're not alone on that point of view. Belinda says that hospital site has not been addressed in 15 years. Sad, a tragic loss of life. A fire within 72 hours after. Sad. Haven't heard council make any statement before this. Correct. It's reactionary, not precautionary or action orientated. It's just reactionary. Could have been prevented, right? That was Belinda. So Jerome says, I agree with your geoengineering assertions. However, Councillor Parent sees no convincing evidence. That's true. He does not feel that Bill Gates has basically been behind geoengineering. And since we talked about geoengineering and people are wondering what it is, I know that I had just found a little clip on it yesterday. And so maybe we'll just play that here. I was maybe going to play it for Councillor Parent if you made that comment and he was on. You know, this is nothing new. We know that Great Britain is coming right out and saying they're now going to they're being public with it, and they're going to implement geoengineering. And so here's a clip from many years ago when Tucker Carlson was actually still on Fox News, right? Talking about Bill Gates and his involvement in dimming the sun.
That's why Bill Gates is now backing something called sun dimming technology that would reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere, causing global cooling.
Bill Gates is backing the first high-altitude experiment of one radical climate change solution, creating a massive chemical cloud that could cool the Earth. It's called solar geoengineering, and it's highly controversial. It would look something like this. Thousands of planes would fly very high and use nozzles to inject millions of tons of light-reflecting particles into the stratosphere. It would create a thin chemical cloud of those particles around the whole planet, blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface.
So there you go. I think that was a pretty neat explanation of it. Very simple. I'm going to keep this clip on hand for anybody who may not have heard of it before or not really sure what it is, and they can do their own research afterwards. And then back to Sudbury. Here, Dave says, fix the roads is an important thing to do. Sudbury's only truth. I don't know. I'm just a guy here, just trying to make sense of things in the world and in our community. But thanks, Northern Hillbilly. And Sheila says, Monique Schroeder. Okay, we're talking. I don't want to. Yeah, I can't really tell when people are conversing one with another. Okay, Liat says violence is becoming common across Canada and usually drug-related. Crime rates have increased and streets are no longer safe. It's a travesty. Now, I don't know who would disagree with that. There are some people out there that I don't know how they don't see it, but it is true. And do you feel safer than 10 years ago? Right? So some comments here. Oh, you're in the waiting room. Well, how's that possible? I clicked join room many hours ago. There you are, Mike. What the heck?
I don't know how they don't see it, but it is true.
Okay, you're gonna have to mute
Do you
your.
feel safer than 10 years ago?
So you're on, Mike, but you're gonna
Right,
have to
so-
mute your thing because I can hear myself in the background.
Oh, you're in the waiting room. Well, how's that possible?
There you are, Mike. I'm really not sure how that happened and how you weren't able. I was looking at my emails thinking maybe you were going to email me saying I'm doing something or whatever. So, well, since you're on, we're going to jump right in it. Did you see that video? Did we see that video we played from Tucker Carlson from many years ago talking about Bill Gates and funding?
No, so I've been on so good morning, Aaron, and all of your listeners and viewers. I've been on since 7:30. I was on early, ready to go, and I'm not sure what happened, but I tried emailing you, I tried messaging you.
Well, I checked my email here right in, as we're on the fly, and I didn't see any message there. And anyways, probably my phone's behind me. But we're on now. And did you see that video I just played from Tucker Carlson at all?
No, I was working on something. I did hear you talking about the video, but I did hear something about a reference from Bill Gates, something about Britain and sun dimming. But
Cool. So we're just going to review this now. Then, since you're on, just hang on a second. We'll just watch it again. Just because one of our viewers has been in conversation with you about this particular thing that's going on in Sudbury and around the world. Basically, it's been going on since the 1990s. And here's just a little bit of it explaining what it is. Sure. So here we go, just for our viewers and for
That's
yourself.
why Bill Gates is now backing something called sun dimming technology that would reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere, causing global cooling.
Bill Gates is backing the first high-altitude experiment of one radical climate change solution, creating a massive chemical cloud that could cool the Earth. It's called solar geoengineering, and it's highly controversial. It would look something like this. Thousands of planes would fly very high and use nozzles to inject millions of tons of light-reflecting particles into the stratosphere. It would create a thin chemical cloud of those particles around the whole planet, blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface.
And you have to like the epic ending that they had there. So, so what do you say to that? Is that something that you're familiar with, or?
No, like I mentioned on a couple of shows before. So two things. One, when I come on, I like to talk more so about municipal politics areas where I can answer and my expertise and be, honest and bring the facts to your listeners and viewers. When it comes to things like geoengineering, I'm not saying it's not happening. I've never said that. What I said is, there's a lot of theories, there's a lot of videos, I haven't seen one person saying I've been involved in this. And I mean, if something like this scale, the Earth is a huge, huge, huge place. If we were to be spraying the skies to cover a better part of our skies, you'd have hundreds, if not thousands of aircrafts, thousands of people involved. I would expect at some point somebody to say, hey, I was involved in this, right? So that's all I was looking for. So I'm not saying it's not happening. And again, I respect that some members of this group support that this is happening. But all I said is there really hasn't been that tangible smoking gun saying, here I am, this is the airport, they do it, this is the stuff they're putting in the air. And then, industrial hygienists could put them on and saying, I'm also reading this on the ground, it's all true. That's all I said. So again, I'm not challenging this. And I'm not sure that, with the little bit of time we have left, that'd be best use of our time. But if this is what the group would like for me to discuss, I'm happy to do so.
Oh no, it's just a matter of there's all kinds of information out there. If you're looking in Great Britain, they're coming right out and saying they're going to do it now. And if you look at what Canada spends their money on, Canada's already been spending money since the 1990s, right on their websites and stuff, saying they're investing in this. It's been going on, and many states have also outlawed it from happening. And so it's not that it's there's so much evidence out there that it is happening, and it does play into what's going on in our world and things that affect us, because it's going on over our skies too. Now, it might not be a local thing that you can do something about, but it just acknowledging something. If someone was said the sun is in the sky, and you went on the internet to find if the sun is really in the sky, it'd be hard to prove the sun is in the sky, to find people behind it and whatever. Who created the sun? You're not going to find it. You're not going to find who keeps the sun burning. You're not going to find that either. But we look up in the sky and we see a sun, and we just know that it's there. And you look up in the sky and you see all these jet trails all over making tic-tac-toe everywhere, and you say, that's weird. And what's going on? You know what I mean? And then you just ask yourself, is that normal? And it really doesn't take much more than that. And it's the same with ICLEI. Are you familiar with a term called ICLEI?
I'm not, no.
Now you should be, because that's the UN and municipalities kind of made a partnership a few years ago. And our community is very up to our neck in ICLEI. So it's something that you may want to just make a note of, and maybe we'll talk about on the next show, how globalists are into our communities to the neck up in terms of the climate. And that's why I share that. It's all climate this, sustainable that, green this. It has nothing to do with our communities and things that we come up with on a local level. It's top down, given from the UN and unelected officials, and going into agreements with our municipalities. And really, we have no, we're not able to make decisions for ourselves. And there's kickbacks or money that we're given for going along with those initiatives that they have. And as a counselor, you really need to be aware of that. And it's something I've always wanted to bring up on the show, but I guess I'm just feeling a little fired up. Now, we've had some accusations from Tom Price and Bob Johnston about costs for the arena, that they say the city is saying it's going to be $2 million, but they feel it's going to be far more than that. Is it going to, what do you have to say about it? And I know you've listened to what they've had to say, and I know you're really familiar with it. So we'll just start off with that.
I haven't listened to, I know they were on the show, but I wasn't able to listen those mornings. I did hear that they feel that I offended them. I never said anything against them ever, and I wouldn't. I have no problem with Tom or Bob. I think they very much care about our community and they're advocates for, and I've actually sat down and met with Tom and Bob and listened to their thoughts. Their opinion is the arena is going to come in at a much higher cost, and that's okay. What I said in council are a couple of things. On social, there was information suggesting that the city is building a $60 million parking lot. That's not true. The city has not once come to council, been discussed or building. That's simply not true. The second item was that the city would have to pay $20 million to prep soil for a hotel. The city doesn't do that. One, that hotel would have to be the biggest hotel in North America. The whole thought of that is silly. And that's not how it works. The city has property. We will sell the property. The hotel wants to build. They assume all of those liabilities. They go into it with their own due diligence. That's all I said in open council. And then I asked Mr. Sakuti, what is the ceiling limit by council? And he reiterated what we approved is 200 million. Now, every opportunity I have, I ask staff, where are we with, because they're working on estimates, and continuously we are reassured that they're confident we'll be able to do this within the ceiling amount. We'll know, I think the Class C should come out sometime in September, and we will have that moment. What I don't want is what happened last time with KED. I don't want to be sitting there saying, we were pretty sure it's 90, and then it's 215. And so for us, it's about making sure that we don't have that sticker shock, that if there's something we feel that's going to be a lot more, then we should be made apprised of that early. So I think we've worked hard to build the relationships with staff so they also don't want that. So I think it's a little bit different than last time, but at no time did I say anything disparaging against any community group. And I applaud them for challenging us, for asking us for information. I believe we are accountable to the property taxpayers, to our constituents, and I have no issue. Just like when I come on this show and you challenge me, that's okay. I try and come on these shows and listen to what everybody has to say as I try and advocate for our community as best as I can when I sit in council chambers on all matters.
For sure. Now, one of the things that Tom had suggested that there's no environmental assessment that's been done for the arena. Do you have anything to say about that?
the city has to follow the provincial law when it comes to building, no different than anybody else. So, I mean, the city has gone through all of the steps of following what has to be done, and they're going to meet the code. We continue to say we want less red tape to move things along. And I'm not sure what the environmental assessment will be required. I'll definitely ask some questions, but we're not circumventing any laws in the building of this arena.
Okay. So at the end of the day, I think Belinda was suggesting that taxpayers there should be more transparency with the cost of the arena. And I guess Tom brings up a lot of issues. He also says that he was not accepted to be around the table as a community group. Many community groups were invited to the table to discuss the new arena, but his was not, and he made requests of the city to be able to be part of the conversation, but feels that he's been shunned from that. Do you have anything to say about that? Or
I'm not aware of what community groups were welcome. I don't recall any community groups coming to council to discuss this. I believe that some time ago, probably in the era of the KED, there was community engagement at that time as to what the community wanted in arena. With this term of council is we can go back and start that all over again. The arena will never get built. And it was, basically that the engagement on building an arena event center had happened, and let's go forward and try and get this thing built. I know we all shudder at the cost. We say $200 million, but Aaron, go back 12 years ago. What would it have cost to build this arena 12 years ago?
not as much as it's going to cost now.
Correct. So inflation doesn't stop just because we would like it to. So if we decide, hey, let's keep punting this down there, let's keep punting this down to the point where we can't use the arena anymore, and then then we're scrambling to build something new, that cost is only going to go up. And I sat down with other individuals I respect when I was deciding on this, and I think I shared this before. And one individual I respect a lot said, Mike, it's not going to get any cheaper. So if we decide to just wait 10 years, that cost is probably going to be $400 million. That's what happens with inflation. So had we decided to do this 12 years ago, I think the cost back then was probably around 25 million. And then people said, oh, that's too much money. Now we're at 200 million, and that cost is going to go up. Then there's, Tom's arguing about the cost of borrowing. There's also the cost of not doing today. So, if you can keep your cost of borrowing to the lowest possible interest rate, that may be less expensive than the cost of inflation over materials and labor in the future. And that's what, the last time the city borrowed, whether I was in support of the KD or not, they had a very good interest rate, like a solid interest rate. And what we've seen is that interest rate, if we had built then, was a lot less expensive than to have waited to build. So, I understand, when somebody says, oh, well, you're not telling the interest rate. Well, when we don't have all that information, because it'll be a second borrowing, but it'll all be made public. And if I find it's not public enough, I'll come on the show and share it. It is taxpayers' money. It needs to be transparent. It needs to be public. But when somebody buys a house, they say, how much you pay for that house? $400,000. Yeah, well, tell me with your interest rate, how much are you paying for that? That doesn't happen. The cost to build is a cost to build. The cost to borrow is a different cost. All of it will be made public so that members of the public who are helping pay for this will be made aware of it. If you go back to when we were making the decision, there was a lot of negotiating around the terms of us giving the green light for them to proceed. And my argument was that it cannot come off the regular operation levy. It has to come out of other sources. And the special capital levy would be the last resort. And so out of that, we've decided to take a portion of the MAT tax. That's the special hotel tax that people who come to Sudbury pay for. It's the same MAT tax that applies in every other city in Ontario. So we're taking a portion of that to offset the cost of the arena. There's going to be sponsorship. So there'll be naming of the arena. That sponsorship is going to go towards the cost. So we're finding every which way possible to not put any of the cost on the taxpayers. The cost should really come out of those who are going to use the facility through user fees, through ticket sales, and some of the concession fees, and through sponsorship, and through those who come into our municipality for tourism, business, or other reasons. So we are listening to the taxpayers. I do very much care about every taxpayer and working hard to make sure we protect the taxpayers from any of the costs of this new arena event center. And
that's going to be hugely important to get the... And again, I'm for a new arena. I've said that from day one. We should have had a new arena years ago. Any other city was able to do it. We're the only ones who weren't. And that's just, what does that say? about us, and we'll continue to talk about the arena as things go on. Now, this hospital, mayor came out yesterday, made a statement, press conference that, things got to be done about this hospital. Why yesterday? Why not before? Why hasn't this been done a long time before? Everybody knew it. Everyone knows it. They drive by it. Anyone who drives by it. Why is this thing still here? Why isn't anything being done? Why did it take a death and a fire in order to now, oh, wait, this is urgent. Like, we couldn't have seen this happening?
Yeah, so I think if you go back to after we were all elected, the mayor made a statement that he wanted that hospital gone by 2026, and he's been working at that. Now, again, I won't speak for the mayor. If he wants to come on the show and speak to that himself, he can do that. What I observed is the mayor there are limits into council and municipal power. Somebody owns a property, you say it's unsafe, the province says, well, you have to make it safe. So they put fencing all around, they put all the proper signs. It removes any authority from council and the city to do a whole lot about it. It's met the criteria to be deemed safe. People going through that are doing so intentionally when knowing they're not supposed to and going through great efforts to get into the property. That doesn't, for me, the threshold there is still very low. We know people are still getting through and going into a property they shouldn't be, but that's the law. Whether we like it or not, that's the law that's on us. So the mayor, I think, has tried to find ways to incentivize the owner of the property. And when the owner of the property asks for some grants and some property tax relief on a place that they're building downtown, he said, fine, I'm putting a condition on it that you tear down that whole hospital. And so the owner of that property did apply for all the permits and was working on demolition since then, and possibly before, I don't know. But so the process has been in the works. Now, the property owner could decide, I want to get a really good deal on demolition. I want to put pricing out there. I don't know, right? I'm just making assumptions. But we know that this was in the works. What happened over the last couple of days, when I got up yesterday morning and I saw what was going on, I was there too. I was just like, that's it. That's enough. That's the straw that broke the camel's back. This building has to go. And so, I was planning to meet with the mayor, and then we received a correspondence on the mayor's statement. And I actually went to Tom Davies at 2:30 for the media scrum to ask questions again. And it looks like the owner of the property is also really incentivized, if you will. He doesn't want this anymore either. So I think he's going to be accelerating. So not that he's starting, the process was starting. They're looking to accelerate the process to get that building knocked down.
And then what's going up in place once the building goes down?
The developer produced plans, I think, about 18 months ago that suggest they're putting some towers, a couple of towers in. One, I think, will be sold for condo. Other, I think, mostly geared towards seniors. But as I remember the plans, you probably Google it and find the plans, but there were 3 towers that were going to go in the place of the old hospital.
So they're going to go ahead with that, but then we're not sure the timeline of it. But I guess just taking it down will at least, keep it from anybody else getting in there. And that's the thing. Like, this is just we have a homeless problem in Sudbury with all these people that are homeless. We've never had it as high as we do now. And there's a vacant building that could probably fit, I don't know, a small town in there. And so, yeah, it's like a perfect storm ready to happen with that building as close to downtown as possible, with people needing shelter. And it's just unfortunate that the whole thing had to go down the way that it did. I just don't understand it. I don't see it in many other communities. I'm kind of well traveled, especially around Northern Ontario. And Sudbury I just shake my head a lot of times about how things go down here. It's just bizarre. And then I had people coming in from out of town, from Texas. And the first thing they said to me, they don't know me. And I know I'm critical about a lot of things that in the city. They don't know me from Adam. It was a friend of a friend. First thing they said is, your roads are atrocious. That's the first thing they said to me. They didn't say, oh, you know what? It's cold up here, or there's still snow, or, coming from Texas, which there was at the time. No, your roads are atrocious. So I think, wow. So there's a lot of people who are saying the cost of the arena and stuff like that. Can we come up with a solution for roads? And I know particularly you're going to get it's the weather, it's the big trucks, it's the whatever. The roads aren't built properly to begin with. And that has to be looked into. It has to be dug down a certain amount of feet. It has to have certain crushed dust you know, it has to be done. And the people who build the roads have to be held accountable. They have to be on the hook for the repair of them for up to 15 years is what the industry standard is. And Sudbury's been subpar all these years. What do you have to say about our roads?
So I've learned a lot more about roads than I ever thought I would. And 3 years ago, I was the one also complaining they need to do more about the roads, and I still do today. And when I was touring with our new CEO, I was somewhat embarrassed of showing some of the areas with the quality of the roads. Right, I drive on these roads with my family. We all feel the pain of tires and rims being damaged and the costs associated with that and our suspension. But I travel north with my regular job, Northern Ontario, and I'm not seeing anything different in Timmins, Sault Ste. Marie, North Bay. I'm not trying to knock them. We're all seeing these issues with our roads.
Well, Timmins, yes. Sault Ste. Marie and North Bay aren't as bad as Sudbury because I'm in those communities probably if same or more than yourself. But again, so Timmins, yes, it's bad as well, but not Sault Ste. Marie. They have the odd road, or North Bay, the odd road, but nothing compared to Sudbury, and we'll include Timmins now, I guess.
Okay, so let's go back to policy decisions that haunt us. At some time, the Harris government said, "Thou shalt amalgamate," and a whole bunch of roads that were called highways that were provincial responsibility were bundled in there and said, "Here, now you're Greater Sudbury." City of Greater Sudbury is the second largest city in Canada. Now let's think about that.
Area-wise, right?
Area-wise, we're the second largest cities. We inherited 3,600 kilometers of road with a small population of 180,000. There isn't the population base to have the property tax levy to invest in the roads adequately. The report we received at our operations committee said, I think we would need an additional $80 million a year just to get all of the roads to where we'd like them. An additional $80 million a year. Now, again, these are third parties who study. They're not, in the report we didn't say the roads are being built shoddy. They're saying you have too much roads. So Sault much smaller footprint, drastically smaller. They have a budget that they can continue to do regular maintenance on most of the roads where we do not. So now the city's trying to prioritize which roads do we fix with the limited budget. This council, we put in a capital levy of 1.5% for 4 years to try and increase the budget to be able to invest in fixing the roads. We started that special levy a year ago. This is year 2. This isn't going to have the returns we want on it for a couple of years, unfortunately. That money has to grow, and then we have to be able to plan and fix the roads in a priority way. So I agree with you. I don't like the roads, but unless we're ready to take on huge property tax increases, we just won't have the money to be able to stay in all the roads. So we're working with staff as far as councils. What other ideas are there? Let's get out of the sandbox. Are there some roads that maybe we can do surface treatment only because they're so low volume that are currently being maintained at a regular asphalt? Are there roads we can shut down and get rid of and try and reduce 3,600? Those types of conversations we're having. But to say that we accept shoddy, there's provincial standard of what has to go into the quality of the asphalt, and that's regularly tested to ensure that's being met. With road construction, staff don't like to go back and redo a road any more than you and I want to see them redoing a road. So I don't believe that there's, I think that we all make, I felt the same before being elected and being immersed into this information after asking a ton of questions. But there's more to it than that. And I think that those policy decisions to make us this great big city when we only have a very small population and we're very staggered, I think is hugely problematic for us. And I'm not sure how we're going to solve that. But I think that we're going to work over the next year looking at ideas. It's come up to operations. We've received the report. It's available for anybody on this who's listening to this to find. You can just kind of Google I forgot what the report's called, but if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'll get a copy for them. But again, it's a huge problem. I'm not going to deny that. But, we can exist to only spend on roads. Sudbury, they've let all the arenas fall apart. They have no more pools, no more parks, but they have nice roads. Or we can say we have to balance that. The city still needs a bit of a soul. When's the last time we invested into any infrastructure in Sudbury? Countryside Arena was the last time. That's it. And before that, I don't know. 70s? We need to be able to invest for the future of our city as well. So we do need to put some money in arenas. We do need to put money in pools. We want to keep our children busy and active and have the infrastructure to support that. And same with the homeless. We're working hard towards back to my motion, which was to end homelessness by 2030. We can go and take taxpayer money, put half-fast solutions and throw away money. And I know that we see the issue and we see it growing. I work downtown and we want solutions now. But what we're trying to do and what we are doing is building the infrastructure so that in 3 or 4 years, we can transition individuals off their streets into a place where there are the services and transition from there into semi or fully independent living without wasting a lot of taxpayers' money. To do that, you need to work with the other two layers of government. You need to make sure that your provincial and federal are paying their part. And we've worked hard with staff to do that. And if you see, we've received the Heart Hub funding for Lorraine Street, so that'll be funded where it's not going to be on the taxpayers' burden, which initially was supposed to be. With the Peace Tower, the federal and provincial government came up and paid the bulk, and all we've done is given a small grant, and we're going to give some tax increment equivalents to get that place. That's another 30 beds. That's a wiser investment of taxpayer dollars, which is going to have a better return in the long run. That long run between now and then, that's the problem for us. As we know, we have 2, 3, 4 more years where things are not going to be great, but we need to get to the other side where we have the infrastructure, make sure we're supporting this well. We do spend tens of millions of dollars in this area already. To go and spend another 20 just to say we're doing more, when that more is not actually helping the problem, I'm not sure that's a wise use of taxpayers' money.
And taxpayers' money is, and again, I don't envy you, Mike, and you're well-spoken, and you've definitely come into this with a lot of knowledge, getting elected, but you've learned a lot since you've been a counselor, and my hat's off to you in having to manage all of these things. Now, you've heard the term "a penny saved is a penny earned," correct?
Sure, yeah.
So let's say there were misspending and things going on in the city that we could save some money. One of the things I've been advocating for is a third party arm's length audit of the city. And I think that would show maybe where money could be more wisely spent, or maybe there's misspending in many areas. And so that has been, it's not even an option for some reason, but myself as a business person, it's what we look at all the time, what we're spending our money on and how could we spend it, more effectively. So why isn't that being discussed anymore, and really looking at what we're already spending and how we can do that more effectively and efficiently with taxpayers' money?
Yeah. So a couple things there. First is, as I mentioned on this show before, we do have the Auditor General reports directly to Council. They're the employee of Council. They're doing audits all the time, and all those audit reports are available. So to go and say we'll pay a second person to do that, I'm not sure, again, is wise use taxpayer money. Now,
what if someone was to volunteer? What if someone was to volunteer and do it for free?
Well, I'm going to go where we're going. We have a new CAO. We have a new CAO. And she's going to build a new leadership team. GMs are retiring. We're going to have a whole new slate of individuals operating on the city. The new CEO has no ties to the city. She's new. She's incredibly competent, incredibly bright. My time with her, she's incredibly aligned with where we want to see the city of the future. Now, she's going to be hiring a CFO, brand new, not from the city. Now, the chief financial officer has oversight of all of the finance of the city. So we will be getting an individual coming in with full oversight of how we spend our money. And I don't believe we're going to have somebody coming in that we're going to hire that's going to say, I'm not here to make this city better financially. I believe the city works hard. The staff I work with are really great individuals. They're like you and me. They get up, they go to work. They're always trying to do their best. But are there opportunities for us to do better? I have a lot of faith that our plan going forward is a better plan to say, let's do a one-off. I go through audits with our work, and I know the threshold is only so much. And I don't think that we would get those aha moments. I think that some members of the public would expect. I don't believe that would happen. But with a CFO, they can build the structure, the controls in place systematically to make sure that they can identify those areas where they, maybe money could be better spent or there's opportunities. But I don't believe for a moment that there's this reckless disregard for taxpayer money. I think that sometimes we see a snapshot in time of a few construction workers somewhere doing something. We take, we don't understand that there's laws under the construction regulations. There have to be so many people with certain responsibilities. But I think for the most part, we're seeing staff work hard to make sure that taxpayer money is being used as best as possible.
Well, I appreciate your time, Mike. And I know I've been a little more feisty this morning. That's because I had more time to get fired up before you came on. And it's just things that I've, okay, if Mike's going to come on, what do I really want to talk to him about? And the fact that we had less time, I was trying to just get it in there. But we went a little bit over because we can do that. I can just fire up the next show and just fast forward it a bit on CKLU. So we did go a bit over. So we almost had the full time that we were going to have anyways. And so I like the fact that you tell people if they have any questions, if they want to know anything, that you're open to receive emails or whatever. Is that the best way to get in contact with you if someone has something that they want to run by you?
Yeah, they can Google my name, my all my contact information from the city comes up right away, or they can send me a message through Messenger. I try and be responsive in 24 hours. But again, I'm here. I try and represent and listen to all members of the public, all members in our community, and sometimes I make a decision that people don't agree. Every time I make a decision, there's a group that doesn't agree with it. That's the way it is. But I can't, there's no way making decisions without becoming a populist that you're trying to appease to everybody. I do the work as I believe my peers do. And sometimes we have difference of opinion, which is what democracy is. There's 13 of us. And that's why, again, I see people saying corruption. There's no corruption. The system is built in a way where there's 13 of us. The individuals that I know best are just great, solid individuals. So they're pillars in the community. They try hard, they volunteer, they do things, and they come to council trying to make the best decisions for our community possible. So I don't believe that the system, the way it is designed that corruption can infiltrate and cause decisions to be made to benefit any individual. My opinion. I believe that we have very good members of council who do care. And again, I urge those who are listening who have issues with any specific issue to speak to their ward councillor about it and try and get the full picture as to why a councillor makes a decision one way or another.
And I was also going to say that if you're not in Mike's ward, I mean, don't bombard Mike. He's not the mayor kind of thing. So, if you're in his ward, contact him, but get in touch with your councillor with any issues you have. And I like the way that you mentioned that. So would you be open to, and I know Tom Price and Bob Johnson said they'd love to have a dialogue, a public dialogue. Would you be open to coming on the show if I had, let's say, them and they made a point and then you spoke to the point and then you made a point and they spoke to it back? Because they seem to have some, like Tom Price has a background in project management, and he seems to have his analysis of the cost of the arena. If it was done in a respectful manner, and I was to moderate it, which I do have a mute button over here, so I would give someone time. I'd say you have 3 minutes or something. Okay, you go, and then if they went over, I'd just mute it, and that way it would be, you know what I mean, done in a respectful way, and no one would get more advantage over another. Would you be open to something like that or not?
So we'll look at it this way. I'm not an engineer. I don't have a lot of experience in project management. I read the reports. I read the information provided to me, and I talk to people about, engineers and others, architects, about their thoughts. That's what I did before I, gave the yes for the arena. So for Tom to come in saying, as it'd be like me saying, Aaron, I heard you like airplanes. There's a guy here who builds airplanes. He's going to challenge you in your thoughts about an airplane. I'm not sure it would be wise for me or for the show to do that. I mean, At the end of the day, I've tried to be honest on this show to share, look, what I said in council chambers, I stand by. You can go back and watch the video. The things I discussed were simply not true. I never suggested either of the groups that say I call them liars. I never called anybody that. I said these things are not true. And if people are sharing information that has no substance to it whatsoever, then that's a lie. I don't believe they said those things. This has nothing to do with them at all. And then with respect to Tom's, and I've sat in when Tom was doing the same with KD, and I listened, and he's a very bright individual. He brought information. I'm not discounting that. What I'm saying is let's be patient. Let's wait till the classy estimate is given to us and we know what is brought back as a forward. Why spend time saying, I believe it's going to be 700 million. I believe it'll be 3 billion. I believe we'll do it for, why bother doing that? What does that help? It creates more anxiety within the public without real reason. He has an opinion. He's a bright person. And if he's right in September, then, I'll have no problem saying, Tom it put this together and this is where he's at. He did a great job. I'm not fighting with Tom. I have no issue with Tom. I respect his opinion, but let's wait and get the information. After we get the information, I'd be more than happy to come in and sit down and have a discourse about it. Between now and then, I don't see this doing any more than creating more anxiety amongst taxpayers. That I think we'd rather wait and see. Let's get the facts in front of us before we have that conversation.
Well, that's great, and it's true. We'll wait till we have all the facts to be able to discuss, and then we can compare apples to apples, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Right on. Well, thanks, Mike, for being on, and sorry for the glitch that happened this morning. I don't know how that happened. I clicked it this morning, and it was ready to join. So I did that first thing when I got on the show. who knows? It's technology and it just happens. So I appreciate you being on, and let's not wait so long before you're back on the show again. It's always a great conversation. So thank you very much for being on today.
Thank you. Thanks to your viewers. Hope you have a great remainder of weekend.
Okay, you too. Have a great weekend, Mike.
All right. Bye for now.
Okay, ciao. Okay, guys, that's all for now. We're already over time. Appreciate the conversation with Mike Parent. You can find him on Google if you live in his ward, basically, and find your own counselor who's in your ward if you have questions about anything. And always keep the dialogue open and communication open. Appreciate Mike for doing that. Not too many counselors are able to come on the show and handle these types of questions in this type of environment. So hats off to Mike for doing that. Appreciate it. And again, so we're just all in the same community, trying for the best community we possibly can build. Appreciate you. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. We'll be back same time, same place on the same platforms on Monday. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao.